Hello there. Um, this is a RUMI video. Jalaluddin Maulana from. He was born in part of Afghanistan, I think. I don't know. The reason why they call it RUMI, it was from Anatolia, which is the area of some part of Central Asia that was under the Roman rule. The some of the eastern far reaches of the Roman Empire. And so most of the Muslim world uh, called it Rumi to mean Rome. Like it was part of the Roman Empire. So those days you would be identified with where you came from. So Rumi is not actually name given at birth, but referred to because it came from there. And I think it was a there are many people who get named after where they're from, like Affairs of Shirazi, Rumi's friend himself, Shams of Tabriz, who was from Tabrizi, Saadi of Shirazi, um, Jilani, you know, uh, Attar of Nishapur. So it was a tradition. And so today we'll be reading a poem or sort of a hadith from Essential Rumi. This is a translation by Coleman Barks, um, Essential Rumi, which I really love. I think my first introduction to Rumi's poetry was through Coleman Barks. I don't speak Persian. I wish I could, so I would read him in the original, but too bad. Anyway, Coleman Barks does this wonderful, wonderful um, translations, and this here it's a is a ceramic print of a whirling dervish that I have on top of my bookcase. Yeah, on top of the bookshelves right there. It's a tradition that was started with Rumi, the followers of Rumi, who still exists right now in the Sufi order of the Mevlevi, uh, who practice the Sema. It's called the Sema, where they turn around and round and induce a state of intoxication, uh, where they go in a trance and turn round and round and get this sort of union with the beloved through music and dance. So Rumi is considered the founder of the Mevlevi order, and it's still a very common tradition in Turkey. Rumi died and was buried in Konya in Turkey, where you can still go today and see the Sufis, the whirling dervishes. It's beautiful. Anyway, today we'll be reading this poem called Moses and the Shepherd. It's sort of a narrative, sort of a hadith poem, and to the theme of the video on prayer. What does really prayer mean? What does it mean to pray? And is there like is there a standard? Is there a way that somebody's supposed to pray? Of course, Jesus um, taught the our Lord's Prayer, which is very simple, I think, and covers much of what somebody needs. But still, in creating a personal relationship with God, somebody can still pray to God the best way they understand, the best way they can. So you shouldn't judge people like how they do things. Anyway, let's go to the poem and hear. Moses had a shepherd on the road praying, God, where are you? I want to help you, to fix your shoes and comb your hair. I want to wash your clothes and pick the lice off. I want to bring you milk, to kiss your little hands and feet when it's time for you to go to bed. I want to sweep your room and keep it neat. God, my sheep and goats are yours. All I can say, remember you is, all I can say, remembering you is, I and ah. Moses could stand it no longer. Who are you talking to? Then the shepherd replies, the one who made us and made the earth and made the sky. Don't talk about shoes and socks with God. And what's this with your little hands and feet? Such blasphemous familiarity sounds like you are chatting with your uncles. Only something that grows needs milk. Only someone with feet needs shoes, not God. Even if you meant God's human representatives, as when God says, I was sick and you did not visit me, even then, this tone should be foolish and irreverent. Use appropriate terms. Fatima is a fine name for a woman, but if you call a man Fatima, isn't isn't an insult. Body and birth language are right for us on this side of the river, but not for addressing the origin, not for Allah. Loosen your tongue and don't worry what comes out. No, no, sorry about that. Um, I skipped a page. Okay, let me go back. Body and birth language are for us on this side of the river, but not for addressing the origin, not for Allah. The shepherd repented and tore his clothes and sighed and wandered out into the desert. A sudden revelation came to Moses, God's voice. You have separated me from one of my own. Did you come as a prophet to unite or to sever? I have given each being a separate and unique way of seeing and knowing and saying that language. What seems wrong to you is right for him. What is poison to one is honey to someone else. Purity and impurity, sloth and diligence in worship, these mean nothing to me. I am apart from all that. Ways of worshipping are not to be ranked as better or worse than the other. Hindus do Hindu things, the Dravidian Muslims in India do what they do. It's all praise, it's all right. It's not me that's glorified in act of worship, it's the worshippers. I don't hear the words they say, I look inside at the humility. That broken, open lowliness is the reality, not the language. Forget phraseology. I want burning, burning. Be friends with your burning. Burn up your thinking and your forms of expression. Moses, those who pay attention to ways of behaving and speaking are one sort. Lovers who burn one another. Don't impose property tax on a burned out village. Don't scold the lover. The wrong way he talks is better than 100 right ways of others. Inside the Kaaba, it doesn't matter which direction you point your prayer rug. The ocean diver doesn't need snowshoes. The lava religion has no code or doctrine, only God. So the ruby has nothing engraved on it. It doesn't need markings. God began speaking deeper mysteries to Moses, vision and words which cannot be recorded here, poured into and through him. He left and came back. He went to eternity and came back here. Many times this happened. It's foolish of me to try and say this. If I did say it, it would uproot our human intelligences. It would shatter all writing pens. Moses ran after the shepherd. He followed the bewildered footprints, in one place moving straight like a castle across a chessboard, in another sideways like a bishop. Now surging like a wave cresting, now sliding down like a fish, with all his feet making geomancy symbols in the sand, recording his wandering state. Moses finally caught up with him. I was wrong. God has revealed to me that there are no rules for worship. Say whatever and however your loving tells you to. Your sweet blasphemy is the truest devotion. Through you, our whole world is freed. Loosen your tongue and don't worry what comes out. It's all light of the Spirit, the shepherd replied. Moses, Moses, I've gone beyond even that. You applied the whip and my horse shied and jumped out of itself. The divine nature and my human nature came together. Bless your scalding and hand your arm. I can't say what has happened, but I'm saying now is not my real condition. It can't be said. The shepherd grew quiet. When you look in a mirror, you see yourself, not the state of the mirror. The flute player puts breath into a flute, and who makes the music? Not the flute player. Whenever you speak praise or thanksgiving to God, it's always like this, dear shepherd simplicity. When you eventually see through the veils to how things really are, you will keep saying again and again, this is certainly not like we thought it was. The end. Okay, I think it's the longest poem I've read in this channel, but it's worth it. Worth it. I mean, the teaching is quite really directly there, and I have been a victim of judging others and saying, "Well, that's not speaking in tongues." You know, somebody be going, "Shla ba 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 ba," you know, and maybe that's the way of worship. You don't look at the words or the technique, but the humility of the heart. So, tying together Rumi with another poet who lived like 1,000 years later, or almost 1,000 years later, anyway. Fernando Pessoa, a Portuguese writer who's known for his heteronyms. He- in this poem, there's a shepherd, of course, and I think another thing in common with the Rilke poem, with the Pessoa poem, Fernando Pessoa, is the personal relationship somebody has with the divine, and having their way of approaching the divine. And another uh, similarity is that the persona is also a shepherd in Pessoa, keeper of flock, keeper of sheep or flock, whichever sort of flock. And the poem is called Keeper of Flock. I have this Pessoa book on my other shelf. This is on my only shelf here. The book, the books really grew, and I had to get another shelf at the opposite corner. But it doesn't have like the full Keep of Flocks poem. It's a long poem which is divided into sections, and so I will read from an online copy on my laptop. Uh, well, I hate to do this, but has to be done. Probably I'll get the physical copy of this translation sometime. It's a really nice translation. I think it's the I don't know if it's the first one I read, but I haven't really come across the exact link from last time. But here's another, probably is the same translation. Anyway, Keeper of Flock, the eighth poem of the series. At midday, at the end of spring, I had a dream like a photograph. I watched Jesus Christ come down to earth. He came through the side of a hill, becoming once again a boy, running around and rolling through the grass, pulling out flowers and throwing them away, and laughing so hard it could be heard from afar. He had run away from heaven. It was too much to act like the second person of the Trinity. In heaven, it was all false, everything in discord, with the flowers and trees and stones. In heaven, he had to remain serious all the time, and once in a while to become human again, and climb towards the cross, and always had to die, with a crown completely made of thorns, and his feet driven through by headed nails, and even with a rag around his waist, like the natives in the illustrations. He was not even allowed to have a father and a mother like other children. His father was two people. An old man named Joseph was a carpenter, and he wasn't his father. And the other father was a mindless dove the only ugly dove in the world, because he was not from the world, nor was he a dove. And his mother, she had loved him always. She wasn't a woman, she was a bag in which he came from heaven, and intended that he who was born of his mother and never had a father to love with respect preached of gentleness and of justice. One day, when God was asleep and the Holy Spirit was away flying, he went to the box of miracles and stole three. With the first, he did not let anyone know he had escaped. With the second, he was created forever human and a boy. And with the third, he created a Christ eternally stuck on the cross and left him nailed to the cross in heaven, where it serves as a model for the others. Afterwards, he fled into the sun and went down the first ray he caught. Today, we live in my village together. He's a beautiful child, laughing and natural, wipes his nose with his right arm. He goes sloshing in pools of water. He picks flowers and likes them and forgets them, throws stones at donkeys, steals the fruit from orchards, and runs away crying and screaming from the dogs. And because you know they won't like it, and everybody thinks it's funny, you chase after the girls who go into the houses on the paths with buckets on their head and lift up their skirts. The one, he taught me everything, showed me how to look at things, pointed to me all the things in the flowers, showed me how the stones are fun when we have them in our hands and look slowly at them. He tells me much what's wrong with God. He says he's a foolish old man and infirm, always spitting on the floor and speaking indecencies. The Virgin Mary takes the afternoons in eternity making socks, and the Holy Spirit springs with his beak and perches on the chairs which he fouls. All in heaven is foolish, like the Catholic Church, he tells me. He tells me that God doesn't perceive anything of the things that he has created, assuming he created them, that I doubt. He says, for example, that creatures sing his glory, but creatures do not sing anything. Creatures exist and nothing else, which is why they are called creatures. And then, weary of speaking ill of God, the baby Jesus falls asleep in my arms, and I take him in my arms back home. He lives with me in my house in the middle of the hill. He is the eternal child, the God that was missing. He is the human who is natural. He is the divine who smiles and plays. And that is why I know with certainty that is the true baby Jesus. And the child, so many human that he is divine. This is the day to day life of a poet. And it's because he's always with me that I'm always a poet. And that my slightest glance, it fills me with feeling, and the small it sound, whatever it is, it seems to talk to me. The new child that inhabits me right here gives me a helping hand to myself, and another old thing exists. And so let those three go along their way, as here there's leaping and singing and laughing and enjoying of our mutual little secret, which is known in every place, that there's no big mystery in the world and that it's all worth it. The eternal child accompanies me always. The direction of my gaze is his finger pointing. Mine ears are attentive, joyful to all sounds that are taking. He makes playing with with my ears. We get on well, so well with each other, in the company of everything. We never think of each other, but we live together as a couple with an intimate agreement like the right and the left hand. At dusk, we play the five pebbles at the step of the house, serious as befit a god and a poet, and as if every stone were the whole universe, and therefore a great danger to her in letting her hit the ground. Later on, I'll tell him stories of things only men, and he smiles because everything is incredible, laughing at the kings and those who are not kings, and he has pity in the hearing of wars and the businesses and the ships which are fuming in the air and the high seas, because he knows that it all lacks the truth that a flower has in bloom and that moves in the sunlight, the variation in the hills and the veil, and how whitewashed walls hurt your eyes. Then he fall asleep, and I lay him down. I'll take him in my arms into the house and lay him down, undress him gently, and follow a very natural ritual, just like every mother, until he is naked. He sleeps within my soul, and at times he wakes up at night and plays with my dreams. He turns a few upside down, putting one on top of the other, and claps his hands alone, smiling for my sleep. When I die, little boy, let me be the child, the smallest one. Hold me in your arms and take me inside your house. Undress my being tired and human, and lie me down in your bed. Tell me stories. If I wake up, so I return to sleep, and give me dreams for me to play until such time is born one day when what you know is what it is. This is the story of my baby Jesus. This is the reason that I understand. And it cannot be any more truthful than everything that those philosophers think and everything that those religions teach. Amazing. Amazing. Oh, Pessoa. Oh my God. That is just beautiful. I don't know. I always get this really intense joy after reading a beautiful poem and be excited to share. And of course, I'd be disappointed of not getting the same reaction from whoever I'm sharing it with. Anyway, keep our flocks by Fernando Pessoa. And if you can compare it to the previous poem by Rumi, it encourages imagination, and I think it tries to say that the creative imagination, the poetic imagination, does not exist in a different realm with the divine. That we can still reach God, we can still be together with God, even in our imagination, and there's no like. Uh, it's not a restricted form. The prayer is not restricted, and our understanding of God is not restricted as long as there's humility in our hearts. And so we see how the imagination of Pessoa in trying to break down the dogmatic fundamentalist Christianity and break it through with the imagination of a personalized God. And I think, of course, the fundamental Christianity and the strict orthodox dogmas of all religions tend to suppress the creative imagination. And this, I think, leads to the disenchantment of the world. And um, channels like this and others that, of course, have inspired me to start my own, try to advocate for a re-enchantment of the world, that um, uh, the divine realm and the poetic imagination do not have to be, mutually exclusive, and it's all like encompassing in this process of re-enchanting the world and um, encouraging the imagination and avoid judgment. And so yeah, Rumi and Pessoa. Who would have thought? Probably Pessoa must have read Rumi. I don't know. Maybe he must have read the Moses story. But you tend to see like the shepherd in the Moses story, and how a keeper of flocks has this sort of innocence and sort of um, very active imagination in appreciation of the divine. One coming from a Christian background, the other from a Muslim background, and speaking the same sort of the same spirit, the same message of the love of God together with the imagination of the human. Thank you, and like and subscribe. Bye.